Hey y'all, it's y'all favorite cozy girl, Chi the Reality Queen, and I am back again with another episode of Robe Chronicles. Today we're going to be talking about Survivor, Season 44, Episode 8. Oh my God, so after the dramatic end to last episode in which Franny sent her showmance and number one person home, Matt, we start off with Franny just hella sad about, her man going home. I mean, well, he didn't go home. Luckily, he went to the jury, so he's sitting in Ponderosa or whatever. Heidi is talking to Lauren about why she took her vote and was like, oh, well, I just figured since you have a second vote that if you guys wanted to do something else that you could still do it and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. She talking to me like I'm dumb. Like, girl, save it. Save it. Nobody wanted to hear it. I don't know why. Heidi is just very, not unlikable, but just kind of like, nah. Like, I have nothing against her. It's just that she doesn't hit for me as a character on this show. But, Lauren was listening and hearing her out. But you could tell that Heidi's trying to like align herself. No, Lauren is trying to align herself with Tika. I believe she spoke to Carolyn and was like, oh yeah, we can work together. Like this can be a thing. The Tika 3, Carolyn, Carson, and Jam Jam, they feel like, hey, we are in a really good spot. Ratu got rid of one of Soka's people. They're out for vengeance. Ratu kind of feels on top of the world. Let's just stay in the middle and see how we can just stay in the middle till the end and keep, going back and forth on the sides, kind of playing this up so they trust us. And then at the end, it's just us, the Tika 3. Kane and Brandon were talking about how they felt so good with where they're at. Kane was like, if Ratu doesn't end up one of the winners, like that's our fault, like we failed. And it's like, okay, y'all getting a little too confident. And on Survivor, when people start talking in absolutes and getting confident, it never really works out for them. But anyway, Carson is like, I don't know, but he's like throwing up and he's feeling sick and he can't really like get up and walk around. And then they get tree mail, and the tree mail says split into groups of 2 before you come to today's challenge. And so everybody looking at Carson like, who's gonna match with him? Sick boy. Because, in Survivor, you don't know if this person is gonna be working with you or if this is who you're gonna go against, right? We've seen it both ways. And so, Carolyn was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick with Carson. I'll do it, And then everybody else splits off, and I think it goes Danny and Lauren, which was a last minute decision because Jam Jam could have paired with either Danny or Lauren, and he ended up choosing Franny. Franny and Jam Jam, Carolyn and Carson, Heidi and Jamie, which is funny because they're on different teams. I think Heidi is Soka and Jamie is Ratu, but they get along. And I think they have shown them talking to each other and being friends, but they haven't really shown how that relationship is budding. And I feel like that's going to come back to play later on. But right now we kind of don't really hear about it. We're just kind of seeing little things. And then Brandon and Kane. So then they get to the immunity challenge. Carson still feels like shit. I'm like, oh, hopefully it's a thing where Carolyn goes against him and so she can win instead of them working together. But you don't know yet. So they get to the immunity challenge. The immunity challenge is split into 3. It starts with them having to go through a rope in which is like all twisted up. So the contestant has to actually twist themselves to open the rope and go through. And then the next part is they have to, then they have to dig up the planks, and then whoever wins that moves on to the next round, and the next round is crossing over to the planks. And the first 2 who win in that one, so in the first one, getting through and digging the planks, 1 person gets eliminated. Setting the planks up and getting across, 2 people are eliminated. And then the last one is the 2 partners. Whoever wins goes against each other. No, the 2 groups who win from the plank stand up against the wall and their feet are hanging on little wooden blocks. And it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. We've seen this challenge before. I love it. It's actually very hard. And then whoever falls off wins immunity. I mean, whoever stays on the longest wins immunity. So the challenge starts and everybody goes, and the twisting seems like it's really hard, but it's not even like, it looks really hard, and I'm sure it's very hard, but Carolyn starts like screaming as she's going through it, and it was some of the funniest like 5 to 10 minutes of television of her just hollering while she's stuck in the thing trying to untwist herself. And Carson's like, I think you got it. Like, because he's sick, he can't yell. And everybody knows when you throw up, like your throat is sore. Like it hurts to swallow, it hurts to talk. So I feel for him. He wants to help her and tell her what to do. And he's like, I think you need to like twist your body and then move and then twist your body. He's like trying to give her instructions. And all you hear is Carolyn like, ah, ah, ah. Every 5 minutes. It's so funny. And what's really funny is like there's a part where he's talking to her and then she just stops and she's like, what? And she's covered in mud. You can't see her, so you just see the expression of her like body language. It was comedy gold. Like, I don't think Survivor is supposed to be funny like that, but I was cracking up. Needless to say, Carolyn is the last person to get through, but she gets through before the challenge finishes. And so Carson does have to go in there, and they lose, but everybody helps Carson get out. So the rest of the 4 teams go forward. I think it's 4 teams, yeah. The rest of the 4 teams go forward and they have to get across the plank. Kane and Brandon are killing it on these challenges. They do it, they're super fast, they get across. Lauren and Danny, Jam and Franny are kind of bussing it. Heidi and Jamie, they're doing okay, but they're a little slow. Obviously, Danny and Lauren, they get across next super fast. So now they're at the last part where they have to stand up. We see Carolyn and Carson on the side, and they're just kind of like, they look so out of it. But the fact that they're also covered in mud from the initial start of the challenge is just, I don't know. Every time I see Carolyn on my screen, I'm just like, this girl is so unintentionally funny. She's a little crazy. I love it. She's just unintentionally funny. I don't think she tries. I think it's just who she is. And it's hilarious to me. So the 4, Brandon, Kane, Danny, and Lauren are all standing on the planks, and they have to go down, and it seems like everybody is doing pretty good. But as you know, with this challenge, it's a small foot challenge, right? Like if you have a small foot, the chance of you winning increases, but also what you can take, right? Because your foot, even if it's small, can cramp up at any time. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna make it through. So Kane falls out first, then Brandon, then it's Danny and Lauren who were paired up. They're last to leave. Danny is sitting there and he like leans over and he calls Jeff's name, and then a little silence, and then he farts. And it's funny because, I mean, farts are so immature, but they're always very funny. But it's funny because like, I feel like we all know these natural body things are happening to these contestants. I mean, they only ever show us when someone is like throwing up. They never really focus on when people have diarrhea or other things like that, maybe because they think it's disgusting. So them kind of pausing and showing us this fart, I think it kind of made the contestants like human, you know, things like that happen. People fart, especially in the wild. You have to expect, you know, shit's happening. So yeah, so Danny goes, he farts, and everybody's laughing. But the competition continues and they are holding strong. I'm like, oh shoot, I don't think Lauren's gonna win. Like, I haven't really had any thoughts about Lauren this season. I think she handled her extra vote really badly. But other than that, I think she was, you know, she's pretty okay or whatever. She's just kind of middle of the road for me. They don't really focus on her too much. But she goes, and all of a sudden, Danny drops and she wins immunity. I was like, she went from not saying nothing to being an immunity winner. So I was like, shout out to Lauren. I'm actually kind of happy about that. because it was different. It was nice. It's nice to see women win. I feel like Danny is your obvious winner. Brandon's your obvious winner. Big guys, you know? So seeing Lauren win was kind of nice. So immediately after the challenge, they get back to the camp and everybody's like, I say everybody, but Brandon's like, okay, boom, we're voting out Franny. We already got rid of her little boyfriend. Now she got to go too. And it's crazy because obviously Ratu thinks they're in charge. So they're like, we're 4 people. As long as we have what they believe is Carson and Jam Jam, then they have 6 people. So they can't lose, right? They're perfectly good. You know, Carolyn spoke a little to Lauren, but she's also had some Soka ties. And Carson is like, okay, we're going to go with Ratu because that's where we are. But then Danny hears that plan because Brandon tells it to Danny too, even though I'm like, Brandon, why would you tell why would you tell Soka that you intend to get rid of 1 more of their numbers? Like, hey guys, it's an easy vote. No big deal. Franny got to go. And of course, Danny, who wants to stay Soka strong, which again, I'm surprised that these people want to stay so strong in their teams so deep into this game, but they're still holding strong. And they were basically like, okay, they're going to put all their votes on Franny. Let's shake it up. He was like, I have an idol. I'll play my idol. This way he tells Heidi, and his Soka folks, he's like, I'll play my idol for Franny. And then we all just turn around and put our votes on Brandon. So everybody's like, okay, great. Heidi immediately gets her little tail up, walks to Carson, Jam Jam, I can't remember who else, and tells them like, hey, we're going to have this happen, right? Everybody's going to be voting for Franny. And Danny is going to play his idol for Franny. And then we're going to all vote out Brandon. And Jam Jam was like, interesting information. Now, Jam Jam is like, maybe I should just wreck they whole ish up and tell Brandon about this plan. So instead of voting for Franny, everybody can vote for Danny and we can get him out and he'll be using his idol for Franny, which will be for naught because the votes won't be on her. And so that's an idea he has in his head. And so Danny comes to Carson, who he thinks is a number for him, and says, hey, Carson, this is what I'm thinking, and I want to keep it small. How about we turn the vote for Brandon. I have an idol. I'm going to play this idol for Franny, and they're never going to see it coming, and we're all going to vote for Brandon. That's the plan. And Carson's like, okay, well, let me tell Carolyn and Jam Jam. And he was like, oh, we don't want to tell him because I want to keep it really small. I don't want everybody to know this information. And Carson's like, the information is already known because Heidi went running her little mouth around and she already told Jam Jam. And Danny's like, what? So now he's panicking. He's like, well, if these people already knew, if all these people know this plan, how am I not sure that they're not going to turn the plan against me? Exactly what Jam Jam said. So he's like, I might have to use this idol on myself if so many people know that I have an idol. Because of course, why wouldn't you turn it on him? Honestly, it's a smart thing to do, but maybe not in the long run. We don't know. Everybody's staying so strong, Soka strong, Ratu strong, whatever. So he's like, what if they just turn on me, you know, and then what are they going to do? Carson talks to Jam Jam and he's like, you know, I don't know if I want to mess up our alliance yet. Like maybe we just go along with what Ratu is saying and, you know, vote out Franny and we don't ruffle any feathers. So now we get to tribal council and, you know, Matt's sitting in the crowd, happy as can be, or I say crowd, but he's part of the jury. He's sitting over there, happy as can be. I'm like, I have never seen a happier loser in this game. Most people be at tribal council with the stern faces on, you know, especially when they by themselves. They just, Matt's like, such a happy guy. But yeah, so then they get to tribal council. Everybody talking around in circles. Heidi talking about this might just be a straight vote. Things looking like they, everybody's on one accord. But, you never know. You should always be worried because it's Survivor. And the truth is, like, it is so easy from this point, for me watching, to know what people should do because you see everything, right? When you can't see everything and all you know is what people tell you, then you have to act accordingly. And that is what these people are doing. These people are acting according to what information they have at that time. And from what we all know, it's not what we see, right? Because we have the cameras. We have everybody's viewpoint, every conversation. While you're sitting in the camp, if you go to take a dump, you don't know what they talking about back at the camp. In that moment that you got to do a number 2, the whole vote can change and it can be on you. You might have thought you was part of something, but you're not part of nothing, right? And so I think that sometimes as a viewer, we're like, do this, do this, do this. But we don't know, right, that isn't really an idea because those people don't really know what's going on. So anyways, it gets time for everybody to vote. And basically what happens is they all vote, and Jeff asked, does anybody have an idol or an advantage and would like to play it, per usual. And so they go and Danny stands up and he's like, I have an idol and I would like to play this idol for Franny. So I'm like, oh shit. Jam Jam already told him. That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, Jam Jam already told him Danny finna go home because he played it for the wrong person. So they go and they read the votes. First vote, Franny. Boom. I was like, okay, well, one, they gotta play it safe, They gotta see what it is. Second vote, Franny. I was like, okay, these people don't know. Third vote, Franny. Fourth vote, Franny. Literally, all the votes are for Franny. And then they're like, first vote, vote for Brandon. Brandon looks and he's like, oh, shoot. Next vote, Brandon. Brandon's like, damn. You knew in that moment he knew he was going home. The next 2 votes were for Brandon and he went home. And let me tell you, it just goes to show, if you're ever feeling confident while playing Survivor, don't. Because that'll be the day you go home. You should always go into every day on Survivor thinking, I could go home today and I need to do everything I need to do to not go home today. Because when you feel confident, that's when the Survivor gods get you. So it's funny because what we see is when we see all the votes, Jam Jam never told Ratu anything, and he voted with them and voted for Franny, despite knowing that an idol was going to be played for Franny. And Carson also voted for Franny to make Ratu look like he's still with them. But since Soka knows that they told him the plan, they also think that Carson is on their side because it's like, oh, I just played the game y'all wanted me to play. Carolyn stayed with, I believe, Soka and voted for Brandon, and that was kind of her little payback, but it also makes it look like Tika isn't all together because they didn't vote as a block. She went with Soka, the other 2 went with Ratu. So Tika right now is playing this game smart as hell, and I hope it continues, and I hope they keep on keeping on, and we see them all the way through to the end because it's actually a pretty good plan. And I'm hoping that it can last till the end since everybody wants to be tribe strong. But anyways, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. I'm hoping you guys are enjoying these videos. And I will see you guys for episode 9. Bye.